Have you ever sat in complete silence and realized your mind is louder than the world around you? Notifications buzz, expectations rise, and somehow even rest feels like a chore. But what if the greatest act of strength isn't in doing more, but in stepping back? Let's talk about something we rarely give ourselves permission to do: unplug, unwind, and fiercely protect your peace. Most of us grow up thinking that peace is something you earn after the deadlines, after the responsibilities, after the chaos quiets down on its own, but it never does it? The truth is, peace isn't a weekend getaway or a self-care Sunday. It's not reserved for people who have figured it all out or crossed everything off the list. Peace is something we're all entitled to, yet it's the first thing we sacrifice when life speeds up. We wake up and reach for our phones before we've even reached for a thought of gratitude. We move from one task to the next, answering emails with half a soul and checking messages with half a breath. We say yes out of habit and I'm fine out of fear. We wear stress like it's a badge of honor because somewhere along the way we confused being busy with being important. But at what cost? Our relationships become transactions. Our passion turns into performance. Our joy becomes scheduled. And somewhere deep down, our nervous system is quietly screaming for a break. Peace is not a retreat from life. It's the foundation of how we show up in life. It's the thing that allows us to respond instead of react, to think clearly, to love deeply, to lead without losing ourselves. Without peace, success feels hollow. Growth feels forced, and even the smallest inconvenience feels like a collapse, because we've built everything on noise, not on stillness, on output, not on alignment. And so we must ask ourselves, not just how do we find peace, but why did we ever believe it was something to be found instead of something we were meant to live in every day? There's this unspoken belief in our culture that the more you give, the more valuable you are. That saying yes to everything is noble, and that being tired is just part of being committed. But what no one tells you is that there's a very fine line between being selfless and being self-destructive. We've romanticized burnout. We've labeled exhaustion as dedication. We wear our busyness like it's proof that we matter. But you can't keep giving energy you don't have. You can't keep showing up for others when you've stopped showing up for yourself. Imagine a cup, simple, fragile, meant to hold just enough. Now imagine pouring from it again and again without ever refilling it. At first, maybe there's still something left, but eventually it runs dry. And still you try to pour. What comes out then? Not generosity, not love, just fragments, resentment, frustration, emptiness. You don't do anyone a favor by running on fumes, because when your energy is low, your patience runs thin. Your creativity dims, your empathy fades, and suddenly the people who need your presence the most are getting your leftovers. Rest is not selfish. Saying no is not rude. Taking a break doesn't mean you've lost momentum. It means you understand your limits. The people who truly need you don't just need what you do. They need you to be whole, grounded, present. And you can't offer that when you're constantly depleted, constantly sacrificing, constantly convincing yourself that you'll rest when things slow down. But things rarely slow down on their own. Life won't tap you on the shoulder and say, "Now it's okay to breathe." You have to make that decision. You have to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You have to recognize that your ability to care for others is directly tied to how well you care for yourself. We live in an age where we're constantly connected. Notifications beep, buzz, and flash at us from every direction. From the moment we wake up to the moment we close our eyes, we are never truly alone with our thoughts. The world has become a constant hum of digital noise, a never-ending stream of updates, opinions, and demands. We've grown accustomed to it. In fact, we've convinced ourselves that we need it, that somehow this constant stream of information keeps us informed, engaged, and relevant. But in truth, it's quietly stealing something far more valuable than time. It's stealing our mental quiet. We no longer know what it feels like to be alone with our minds. Silence, once a space for creativity and reflection, has become uncomfortable. We pick up our phones not because we need information, but because we need distraction. We scroll through social media not to connect, but to fill the emptiness that arises when we're not plugged in. And with each scroll, we give away a little more of our mental clarity. The thing about digital noise is that it doesn't just occupy our time, it occupies our mind. Every notification demands attention. Every message, every email, every alert pulls us away from the present moment, redirecting our focus to something outside of ourselves. Even when we aren't actively engaging, our minds are still spinning, trying to catch up with the chaos. And all of this noise, all of this information, starts to drown out the quiet inner voice that tells us what really matters. We tell ourselves it's harmless. After all, it's just a few minutes here and there. But those minutes add up. They fill our days with distractions that prevent us from reflecting, from being present, from just being. In a world where the pace never slows down, the noise never quiets, we forget that true mental peace is found not in more stimulation, but in less. When was the last time you truly had a moment of stillness, not with the TV on in the background, not scrolling through your feed or answering messages, just silence, true quiet? That's where we regain our strength, our perspective, our sense of self. But we've built a world that doesn't allow for silence anymore, and in the process, we've created a culture that's simultaneously more connected and yet more disconnected than ever before. The constant noise keeps us busy, but it doesn't make us better. It fills our time, but it doesn't fill our soul. And if we continue down this path, we'll find ourselves surrounded by voices that drown out our own. We often hear about boundaries in the context of relationships, whether with family, friends, or colleagues, but the truth is, boundaries are about something deeper, respect. Not just respect for others, but first and foremost, respect for yourself. We live in a world where saying yes is often seen as the ultimate act of generosity. We are encouraged to go the extra mile, to help, to be available, to do whatever it takes to be of service to those around us. But somewhere along the way, we've confused being accommodating with being worthy. We've learned that putting others first is the right thing to do, and that saying no makes us selfish or unkind. But in doing so, we've forgotten something fundamental, that our time, our energy, our peace, they matter too. Boundaries aren't walls, they're markers of respect. When you set a boundary, you're not telling others that they're unwelcome or that you don't care. What you're saying is that you value yourself enough to know where your limits lie. You're telling the world that you understand the delicate balance between giving and preserving, between showing up for others and showing up for yourself. We live in a culture that celebrates overwork, that holds up the image of the tireless worker, the endlessly available friend, the person who never says no, as the gold standard. But what we don't often realize is that, over time, this leaves us depleted, disconnected, and lost. We find ourselves saying yes to things that don't align with our values, committing to obligations that drain us, and losing track of who we are in the process. Our energy is siphoned away by people, tasks, and expectations that don't respect our need for space, for rest, for quiet. But setting boundaries isn't about building walls, it's about knowing where you end and the world begins. It's about understanding that your needs, your feelings, your time are just as important as everyone else's. In fact, boundaries are an act of love, not only for yourself, but also for others. Because when you protect your energy, you're giving the best of yourself, not a version that's been stretched too thin. It's uncomfortable at first, saying no feels like a betrayal, like you're letting someone down, but what we often forget is that by saying yes, when we're not able, we're not giving anyone our best self, we are giving them an exhausted, frustrated, or resentful version of us. And that's not fair to anyone. Boundaries also protect our mental and emotional health. We often ignore the signs that we're overwhelmed because we don't want to disappoint others or appear weak. But the truth is, when we fail to set boundaries, we create a space where stress, anxiety, and frustration can thrive. We allow others' demands to dictate our internal state, which leads to burnout. And burnout isn't just a personal issue. it affects everyone around us. The less we have to give, the less we can be the people we want to be, and the less we can show up for the things that matter most. Setting boundaries is a commitment to quality, not quantity. It's a choice to protect your time, your emotions, and your well-being, so that when you do give, you can give fully, with intention, and from a place of abundance. Boundaries are not selfish, they are necessary. They are the framework that ensures you can continue to give without losing yourself in the process. Boundaries are not about cutting people off or being rigid. They are about knowing when and how you can show up, and being honest with yourself and others about what you can handle. By honoring your own limits, you are showing the world that you respect yourself enough to prioritize your well-being, and that is an act of great strength, not weakness. In a world that values speed, productivity, and constant motion, stillness has become something of a lost art. We've been conditioned to think that being busy is synonymous with being valuable, that productivity equals success, and that silence is something to fill rather than embrace. But in all this noise, we've forgotten something crucial. Strength is born in stillness. Stillness is not the absence of action. It is the space in which true action is born. In the quiet moments, away from the distractions and demands of the world, we find the clarity to see things as they truly are. We stop reacting and start responding, not from a place of overwhelm, but from a place of intention. We live in a society that constantly pushes us to do more, achieve more, be more. But in the pursuit of more, we've lost touch with the foundational act of being. It's in the stillness where we reconnect with ourselves. It's in that moment of pause where we hear our own thoughts, understand our emotions, and listen to what our body is telling us. It's where we check in with our values and remember why we started in the first place. When we sit in stillness, we create a space where we can be honest with ourselves. There are no distractions, no external pressures, no voices pulling us in different directions, just us. In the stillness, we stop pretending to be something we're not, stop rushing to meet expectations, and simply are. This is where real strength is forged, not in the constant noise of the outside world, but in the quiet moments of self-reflection and understanding. True strength isn't about how many tasks we can juggle or how much we can accomplish in a day. It's about how well we can remain grounded, centered, and calm in the midst of life's storms. The most resilient people aren't the ones who never experience hardship. They are the ones who, when faced with adversity, are able to sit in their own stillness and draw from the well of inner peace that resides within them. Stillness allows us to process, to digest, and to understand. It's in the silence where we make sense of the noise. We begin to hear our inner voice more clearly, to understand the subtle nudges that guide us toward the next step, and to recognize the things that truly matter. Without stillness, we are like ships lost in a storm, tossed around by every gust of wind and every wave that comes our way. But in stillness, we are anchor, rooted in our purpose, in our values, and in our truth. In a world that demands constant doing, stillness feels like an act of rebellion, but it is, in fact, the most powerful form of resistance. It's the resistance to the chaos, to the external noise, to the expectations that try to pull us away from who we truly are. And it's in that resistance that our true strength grows. When we allow ourselves the gift of stillness, we cultivate patience, not just with the world around us, but with ourselves. We begin to trust that we don't have to chase every opportunity, don't have to constantly prove ourselves, don't have to earn our worth by doing more. Our worth is inherent, and stillness reminds us of that truth. Stillness isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's a practice that allows us to tap into the deepest parts of ourselves, to strengthen the muscles of self-awareness, patience, and resilience. And just like any muscle, the more we practice stillness, the stronger it becomes. When we slow down long enough to truly listen, to ourselves, to our environment, to the people we love, we begin to make better choices. We act with purpose, not out of habit. We speak with clarity, not from a place of confusion. We lead with confidence, not with fear. The strength that emerges from stillness isn't just about surviving life's challenges. It's about thriving through them. In a world that's constantly pulling us in different directions, we often forget the most important thing: we are not meant to run on empty. Our peace, our energy, and our mental well-being are not just privileges. They are essential. It's easy to get caught up in the cycle of doing more, being everywhere, and pleasing everyone, but in the process we risk losing ourselves. Unplugging, setting boundaries, embracing stillness, these are not acts of avoidance or selfishness. They are acts of self-respect. They are essential practices for reclaiming our peace, our focus, and our strength. When we make time for stillness, we don't just restore our energy. We rediscover the clarity, creativity, and resilience that live within us. We can't pour from an empty cup. But when we make protecting our peace a priority, when we honor our own needs and create space to recharge, we fill that cup up again, ready to give from a place of abundance, not depletion. This is how we grow stronger, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we love and lead. So remember, it's okay to say no, it's okay to rest, it's okay to unplug. The world will keep turning, but you'll be better equipped to meet it with clarity, strength, and peace. Because protecting your peace isn't just a necessity, it's a choice, and it's the most important choice you can make.